Town Hall. This is being held as a hybrid meeting. Participation is possible in person or online through GoToMeeting. Login credentials for GoToMeeting are available on the agenda, published on the Town of Harwich website. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is a notice of intent for 11 River Bend Road, map 1, parcel G1-9, for the replacement of an existing wooden bulkhead, the installation of floats with scallop growing nets, and dredging at the base of the bulkhead to allow for scallop growing nets to remain submerged at low tide. Salt marsh restoration is also proposed in eroded areas. This has been continued from the February 5, 2025 meeting.
I think I'm the last man standing in my team.
Okay.
Jeff Lang from 99.
Bring him up, man. Come on.
The owner of 11 River Bend property also.
Okay.
11 River Bend is down at the bottom of the Herring River. And I'm going to be skipping through some of these slides because things have changed since even the last attempted meeting. The plan is to remove the existing bulkhead, which is the red line, replace with a new steel bulkhead, which is the yellow line on the kind of the inside of the red line. And it shifts landward about 6 feet where the marsh has eroded and is gone. We then do maintenance dredge at the north end only, where you see the black and white checks, which is the area that those are the scallop floats. We install wood piles and guide rails to allow those to go up and down with tide, and install 648 square feet of bay scallop farming platforms in that area. The future bulkhead connection has been cemented as of today. We have a signed agreement with the abutter in that we will be removing all of the old wood structures and inserting 4 feet back. You'll see a right there is one pile, and it's being done in an area where the old steel piles have never been exposed to the ocean water. They're buried right up to the top in sand, and so we're pretty confident that that area is still stable and not as eroded and as any of the rest of the wall. But the other point that we've done is right there at the corner is a three-way connector that allows Mr. Kelleher to attach to an already existing new wall to when he replaces. I mean, I think his proposal is to put a vinyl or composite seawall in front of his old metal one. So we will be leaving that attachment right there for him to go across the front of his existing wall. And that piece is the new one. This is his old existing wall. So that was his preference on how we eliminate all of the old wooden stuff and not leave stuff dangling out there right across the property line. Seal the marsh off at least well enough that it could last a year or two before he does his, without any further degradation of the marsh. some of the acceptable orders of conditions that we've already are in agreement with the abutter. No helical anchors are proposed on the Keller property. Written confirmation of the contractor, and in the contract, it has very specific wording that will be in our contract. All work will be done from either the river or the river bend 11, our property side of the property. But we've also, in the new agreement, have been given access if the engineering firm needs to do any testing, that before they're actually driving piles, we have access across the Keller property to be able to verify that we've got all the information straight forward. We no longer need this requested condition because we've agreed on this one result. We are asking the commission for these 3 bylaw variances: unavoidable impacts of resource areas, the square foot float limits, and the seasonal float portions that allow us to do the aquaculture farming once we're done with this. And that is the view of the whole. The crosshatched area is the majority of the marsh restoration is down at that bottom end. And this is the line of the dredging. Most of the dredging is actually behind the existing wall, pulling out the old fill that had been originally put there when they built it and moving it back into that area for the marsh restoration. But that's all really nice, clean, pretty heavy gravel and sand is what they originally had filled that whole area with, that turned into a nice marsh. That's that corner section that we're talking about, and that actually has been there since back in the 30s when it was first built. And are there any questions about this project?
Well, I think we will start with comments from Amy, and then we'll have comments or questions from Amy, and we'll have comments and questions from the commission, and then we will open it up. Unless you have anything further to say now.
I don't. I'm all done.
We will open it up to public comment and question. But let's start with Amy.
Just to go back a little bit, and not spend too much time on it, but look at the wetlands aspects of the project. There are numerous types of wetland resource areas here, including, but I'll say not limited to in case I miss one, but salt marsh, incubating shellfish, riverfront area, landward of mean high tide, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and land, I say land under the ocean. This project, in my professional opinion, will have a benefit to the salt marsh. I know there's arguments against it, and I respect those. The marsh that's currently behind a very degraded bulkhead is largely, in my opinion, degraded because of how bad the bulkhead is. I've seen similar instances where we have structures that are intact, that hold the sediment in, where there is still tidal exchange, like there will be here, where things are where things are more stabilized, and the marsh can actually take hold. This is not a virgin site. It's been used commercially and just had a bulkhead for many years here. So they're asking us to replace the bulkhead a little bit landward and also to do a commercial activity. And I'll just state that the use in terms of commercial versus residential, that has nothing to do with this commission. This is the first stop essentially for the project, and it will need all other sorts of licenses should it move forward from here. The area that's proposed to be dredged, that's underneath floats, has limited shellfish currently in it as per the surveys. And when looking at the entire aspects of the project, for this project, I can recommend approval to you of it with the granting of the 3 variances. The seasonality, the float size, and that there will be some impact to resource areas, even as a result of just replacing the bulkhead. But, let me see if there's anything else I have to say. I think that's it as of this time. 15 minutes before the hearing, I saw and printed out the agreement between the 2 folks. If anybody would like to see it, I didn't put it, I didn't have a chance to do much with it, but if anybody would like to see it, the agreement between Mr. Lang and Mr. Kelleher, I do have it if anybody wants to take a perusal. I think this is a good compromise. Nobody wanted to see a gap between the bulkheads. You're connecting at a place that's more sound landward and giving the option to connect at the face later, when the Kellehers apply to redo theirs. So I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Amy. Wayne?
I'm glad to see that you're gonna use that 3-way connector. I've used them many times in jobs like this, and the perfect solution for this. Tie everything together and boom. Very simple. I think it's great.
That's it. Vivian?
No, I generally agree with Amy, and I am in support of the project.
Okay, Sophia?
I have no questions. I'm wondering about the conditions. I don't know if that was something that you were gonna bring up or somebody else might bring up. I don't know how, if I don't fully understand, or what with the no work, and equipment from the land. I mean, I feel like it's obvious nobody should be walking across the salt marsh, but I'm not sure I feel great about conditioning anything like they can't keep any equipment by the house. Like, and I don't know if that's not what's being or will be suggested, but I just want to put that out there, that if that comes up, then I think we should talk about it. Otherwise, I have no suggestions or comments.
All set? So, just one question or point, I guess, is, it appears to me that you actually have moved the floats north, right? I mean, isn't that a difference between previous? You have moved some of the floats that were along the bulkhead and moved them to make the stuff on the east-west wall at the north side wider. Is that correct?
That was the work with the Waterways Committee. They didn't want
Oh, okay.
more than 3 of our 6x12 floats on
Okay.
the channel. So originally, we had some come closer to the
Right.
south end of along that whole wall of the channel.
Right,
Waterways wanted us to be
okay.
just on the north end because the channel curves there.
Yep,
It curves away from the wall, so they were wanting us to stay away from making any kind of a pinch point on the channel. And that actually works better for us because we'll be in a eddy as compared to right in the flush amount of the fastest part of the current. So it ended up being a good compromise on staying out of the channel and still allowing us to have the capacity of the aquaculture site in an area that's, a lot of that is in the black mayonnaise stuff on that end part is where we'll be dredging is a little calmer water for the animals and more of the whole stuff out of the channel.
has the total area of the floats changed as a result of
No,
that
no,
change?
actually, I think our very first proposal, we had 10 of the floats, and now we're down to 9. So we decreased a little when we went through waterways.
Okay, thank you. I agree with Amy, I agree with other comments here. There are trade-offs here, there are pluses and minuses, but I think it's very important to maintain a stable bulkhead there, to maintain a stable salt marsh behind it, and this seems like the best way to do it. So having said that, let's see if there are comments or questions, excuse me, comments or questions in the room? Anyone? Yes, please.
Hi, Noreen Cahalan. I live in Harwich. So, I believe this is a bad idea. They're asking for 640 square feet of permanent floats. There is a Harwich bylaw that only allows 200 square feet, and they be temporary, and it's there for a reason. It's to protect the Heron River. On the first draft of the Heron River study that the commission reviewed a couple of months ago, they said one of the things to protect the river, it was the Heron River study on water-dependent structures, to limit the footprint. So this is not limited in the footprint. The reason is 200 square feet and it be temporary is to limit the footprint and protect the Heron River and the environment and all the resource areas. So I think this is a mistake. It should not be allowed. Obviously, the bulkhead needs to be repaired, but they don't need 9 floats for scallop farming. They can have 1 float, or they can have 200 square feet and be seasonal, which is what the law allows. They're gonna affect the resource areas, the salt marsh. The dredging could negatively impact neighbors, cause flooding. There's other shellfish in the area. Scallops aren't native to the Heron River. They don't naturally grow there. What's gonna happen when they don't grow? Are they just gonna switch to something else? Are they gonna say, okay, we're gonna do oysters? It should not be allowed. It's against, they're asking for too many variances that will hurt the resource areas, hurt the environment, hurt the Heron River, and I think that needs to be considered. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Okay, do we have anyone online or remote who wishes to comment or question?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Pyle. I'm an attorney at Hill Law. I represent neighbors and abutters to this project. I've spoken to you before about the issues related to it, and I've submitted several letters to the commission. First, with regard to the bulkhead connection, I can confirm that we're in agreement with option 3, and that we do have a signed agreement with Mr. Lang to proceed with the option 3 connection. And we are in agreement about that, provided that the 3 conditions listed in my February 27th letter are included in the conditions order. Mr. Lang has agreed to those. They're also in the contract that you have before you that we signed today. They involve that the contractor be licensed and insured. There's no work on the bulkhead between Memorial Day and Labor Day, and that the work only occurs from the 11 River Road side of the property or the water. As to that last condition, the final wording of it was in an email that I sent to Amy last week, or it's also, the final wording is reflected in the contract that was signed today. So we'd ask that you include those 3 conditions in your order. We view this project, however, as 2 really separate components. One is the bulkhead replacement, where, as I said, we're in agreement with option 3, but the second part is the scallop floats, and we are not in agreement with that part of the proposal. And I'd like to reiterate what Noreen just mentioned to you about how we do not believe that this part of the project for the scallop floats complies with the bylaws provisions on variances, and we do not support the variances for this project that are being requested under the local bylaw. My letter from February 27th has 9 other conditions that we're asking for on page 3. Except for the no construction between Memorial Day and Labor Day, which is the item number 2 on my letter, which is, as I just mentioned, agreed to by the parties. I am not sure if the rest of the conditions are agreed to or not with Mr. Lang, but we would request that the commission include those in the order, and they relate to dredging outside of the 25-foot buffer in accordance with the Division of Marine Fisheries recommendation, that the aquaculture floats only be used for scallop farming and not other kinds of shellfish without authorization from the commission, that the aquaculture operation not allow land access just for the farming, for the aquaculture, that there be no commercial signage or lighting or commercial equipment, and that scallop harvesting not be permitted between dusk and dawn, and we do not want motors also at the property. So motors on the floats running on a continual basis. So those conditions are still requests that we have, and I would request that you go through them one by one, and perhaps we can get some kind of agreement on those 2. But that's a separate part of the project that we are concerned about. We're concerned about the impact on the community and the neighborhood. And although, like I said, we agree with option 3, we have reservations about the rest of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have someone else? Anyone else online who cares to comment?
Yes, I'm Dorothy Hayes. And this is some objections to the project. First and foremost, I don't think the project meets the town's bylaws, variance requirements, nor the wetlands regulations. Both are based on the commonality between the 2 or the mitigation and alternatives. And in this case, I may have missed it, I don't know that the proponent submitted an alternatives analysis, or did the commission request for an alternatives analysis in terms of what other options would be available to meet the regulations. The department is more stringent in that it has a 3rd requirement that this project must have an overridden public interest. And there's not one that's apparent to me. This is a private enterprise, commercial enterprise. And when you do have regulations locally and with the regulations, wetlands regulations, the more stringent regulation controls, and that would be the wetlands regulations because of that 3rd requirement, the public overriding public interest. So I don't see whether there was any kind of substantive mitigation information submitted, or whether there were requests from the commission for those alternatives, which are required under the bylaws of both bylaw and the regulations themselves. So that doesn't appear, unless I'm mistaken, to be satisfied. And of course, as I said, the public interest. The other concern I have with this project is that under your pier docks and related structures, and the wetlands bylaw, these structures are supposed to be perpendicular to shore. And the spirit in part of that is so that the rights of the public are not infringed upon, the right over the tidelands, public trust. And so it's clear that that would be a more aggressive project to have it perpendicular, because it would go into the waterways. But now that it's lateral, it really is conflicting with providing lateral access to the shore that the public is entitled to. And there is a fishing, fouling, and navigation. Those are rights over the tidelands that the public holds and is entitled to. And unless I'm misunderstanding this project, it's armoring those tidelands for quite a distance and preventing the public from swimming, from fishing, navigating in those areas that are preserved for the public right. So I also have that objection to the project. And so thank you for the opportunity to express them.
Thank you. Do we have any further comments or questions? Amy, one of the things that Attorney Pyle requested was that we review these 9 requested conditions. And I would like to talk about that because I personally don't believe that all of these even fall under our remit, and I just wonder if we can talk about that a little.
We can, I would suggest, the way we typically do it, is that you would vote on the project, and should that go forward, that that we have that discussion after the second at least. We're not going to close this. Our procedure is that the commission would vote tonight if you're ready to do so, and that it would be pending my drafting of the orders of conditions, which would be, that draft would be available to folks when it was ready prior to the next hearing. And that at the next meeting, essentially if you were to vote approval pending the order, you can either start the initial conversation tonight, but I would suggest that you get the motion first to see if you're inclined to approve, and go from there. But just to be clear for everybody, if the project is approved this evening, it is pending the orders of conditions, which would be voted upon at the next meeting.
Thank you. Any further comments, discussion from the commission? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the plan for 11 River Bend Road, map 1, parcel G19, pending the review of the order of conditions.
Second.
Seconded by Sophia. Further discussion?
No, I believe I'm still obliged to abstain at this
You
point.
are to abstain, yeah. When
Okay.
it comes to that.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, one abstention.
Would the
401.
commission like to discuss those 9 conditions while we're sitting here tonight, or would you like to wait to have the order of conditions discussion to our next meeting when we have the full set?
Well, I think we will have to discuss the conditions as written anyway, so let's just wait until we have a written copy of the draft conditions and then go from there.
I will do my best to have those by mid-next week, and I'd be happy to provide them to interested parties.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next on the agenda is a notice of intent for 277 Great Western Road, map 38, parcel A1-11, for after-the-fact tree and shrub removal and planting. Who do we have to discuss this?
I believe Mr. Peterson was going to be online.
Okay, well, let's not get hung up here.
Well, we'll
Let's move
check
on
it again shortly.
to the next item and see if we can get back to this later in the meeting. Next, we have notice of intent for 11 and 15 Shore Road, map 2, parcel B1-14, And B1-11 for repair of an existing bulkhead and concrete seawall. Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anthony Bowers. I'm an attorney here in Chatham, and I'm appearing on behalf of Kathleen and Sal Luckley. They are owners of 1115 Shore Road. 11 and 15 Shore Road border Nantucket Sound to their south. They're proposing the repair and reconstruction of 2 seawall structures, one for each property. These structures have been here for decades, at least 60 years. The last repair was a permit in 2008 for number 11, and since storm action and natural erosion has degraded these structures to the point where repair is necessary to protect these properties and structures. I'll note that number 15 is only 19 feet from the existing concrete wall, and that concrete wall has been undermined and there is erosion occurring behind the wall. So these repairs are critical. I've noticed all the 100-foot butters directly to the east. Number 19 is also owned by Kathleen and Sal Luckley, so of course they're in support of the project. The direct shorefront abutter to the west is the town of Harwich, which is the parking lot at Pleasant Street Beach. So hopefully the town is in favor of this as well. I've received an email from a direct abutter across the street, number 16, a Kathleen Kelly. I did share that email with Ms. Usowski. I don't know if she shared it with you. I do have a copy if anybody would like it tonight. I also brought color copies of what I included in the notice of intent. They came in black and white, but there's 4 copies each of color. A little more demonstrative of the existing conditions. With me tonight is also Dan Croteau of Moran Engineering of Harwich, and William Conley of Pine Tree Nursery and landscaping. He's been a long-time project manager or property manager for the Luckley's on these properties and has very intimate knowledge. DEP has also issued a notice of intent with no comment, so it appears the state doesn't have any immediate concerns with this project. And I've personally been involved with this project for almost a year. I've met with Dan and William and even the conservation agents at this property at least 3 or 4 times. Well, excuse me, just with the conservation agents once. Dan and I have met numerous times over the past year. He's had numerous revisions to his plan, as you'll see, and he's put a lot of thought into this. The existing resource areas is predominantly the coastal bank. I think it's about 275 feet total between the 2 properties, but it also does infringe upon the coastal beach, which the construction will occur in. And for the performance standards and the technical issues of this plan, I'll turn it over to professional engineer Dan Croteau. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Good evening, Dan Croteau from Moran Engineering. This Lepoli's own, is that sounding strange to everybody?
It has a little bit of a.
Speak into it again.
How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay. Wonderful. The Lepoli's own, from Pleasant Road Beach, they own 11, 15, and 19. On 11, there's an existing line of stone, small revetment, and then a vertical seawall, which is actually 3 layers. And 2007 was the latest, trying to fix that up with new composite planking and some new tiebacks. Behind that is an old, almost like railroad tie, creosote wall. Behind that is a concrete block wall. And then as you go down towards, that's from basically the Pleasant Road parking lot down to number 15. At number 15, there's a concrete wall, and anybody who went to the site sees a concrete wall of very large footing cemented on top of boulders. And that was actually, as late as 21, you wouldn't even see most of that wall. That had been completely taken out in certainly 22, 23, I believe, or 23, 24, whenever the big storm years were. We've been lucky this year. The north side of the Cape has been hit worse than the south side. Then there's stone, after the cement wall, there's also the stones that sits on. Then there's stones that are still buried, part of it in the bank and fill that's coming down, and then it goes into what would be considered dune deposits from there to the east. So the homeowner originally wanted, to put a wall in the whole place, but, after soil testing, it can't go beyond where it already is. So the idea was to redo or propose a new vertical wall, or the better idea, I thought, was just to do a stone revetment for the whole area. At number 15, because that wall can't be removed, because it'd be a massive project to remove the wall. Originally, because it's so close to the existing house, the thinking was that might be a place for sheet piling, but the reality of it is, with that cement wall and cemented to the boulders, the sheet pile would either have to go all the way much further out towards the ocean, another probably 6 to 8 feet, or the everything removed. And with everything removed, and then trying to bang in sheet pile that close to the old cinder block foundation sounds like a bad idea. So the idea now at that one itself is, as shown on one of the cross sections, would be just to build stones up to about 2 feet below the wall, reinforce that wall. The biggest issue with that wall right now is the undermining of it, so that would have to be repacked and probably with some grout, and then build a regular small seawall in front of that. But all of it tying together. So the top of that wall is a little under 12 feet. As you look towards the Lepoli's property on number 11 towards Pleasant Road Beach, it drops down to about 11, the top of the bank there. So what we'd be looking at is a wall, on the west side, starting at about 11, then going up and matching, and then in front of the house, in front of the house would go up to 12, and then match into the top of the existing concrete seawall. The area, the town, from the pictures, you can see the town has plenty of sand out front, but they do have a large stone groin, much bigger than anything on Sal's property or beyond, that catches all the flowing, your normal west to east flowing sand, the normal current, and they probably also pack sand in there. So Sal's property, immediately adjacent, at least the first property, is pretty starved by that town groin, but it is equalized out a little bit in front of the wall. It was almost, I'm just looking back at the old aerial photos, up to 2021, it was the sand and plants were almost level across all the properties, and now you can see how it completely got removed in front of number 15. So the pictures that Attorney Bauer gave you this was from last year after the storm. This wall, again, is elevation 9, about at the deck, and the water completely took the walking deck off that wall and destroyed things pretty good. Also destroyed or took away all the sand in front of number 15, and then also took up quite a bit of sand away from number 19, which I believe William, the property manager, has put back last year, and then I think put more back this year to keep that stable. Just nourishment sand there. So having that existing wall at 9 and being completely destroyed, we thought that going 11 to 12 and then matching into the existing wall would be more of a long-term solution, which gets us above the 50-year storm. The 100-year storm would be elevation 13, but that's above the lower land, the lower part anyway, and there's still plenty of bank behind that to protect number 11 Shore Road for that design storm, or wave design. So we provided, so the first wall is going to start, the stones would be where the existing stones are that are out there, and then go back into the bank. Because we're not going vertical, and because we want an extra few feet for safety and to do this once, it extends behind the wall 10 feet or so, but does not, it starts where the existing wall is oceanside, then goes back towards, up and towards the bank, so we can get that 1.5 foot, 1.5 to 1, or 1 vertical to 1.5 instead of straight vertical. You obviously need to go back more. In front of number 15, we'd be coming forward about 5 feet or so to be able to create that revetment to save that existing stone wall, not stone wall, concrete wall there that's completely undermined. So the page 1 just gives the overall site plan. Page 2 gives the profiles of the two properties, one showing the wall, one showing the number 11, which is the going up the bank, and then then page 3 was just an existing conditions plan to see what they have now, because it got confusing trying to see existing conditions on the over the proposed. So we tried to keep it all in the existing area, but make something that's going to last, and something that, instead of having, like now, revetment wall, and then maybe revetment behind it to try to save it, is do just one standard revetment from a few feet from the property line to the west, going east, and then the normal where and what you're going to see out there, or what you did see out there, is on the east side of the revetments, and that is the same owner for the rest of number 15 and number 19, so there's no issue with impacting a neighbor. On the east side, there is no erosion, and there's also 2 stone groins protecting that little corner. But so this is what the owner would like to move forward with to protect his property, rebuild the walls that are there. I guess I'll leave it with that. And again, the property manager who got me and Attorney Bowers together and is in discussions with the contractor, is in the audience to hear the concerns, obviously, also, and he'll be the man on the ground watching over the property. And I'll leave it at that, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Start with Amy.
So this is largely reconstruction or enhancement of existing structures. It's not going to, there's not going to be any new structure any farther east than there already is existing on the site. We do have a coastal dune on the eastern side of property 15, so they cannot extend more into that. Last year, during the 3 big southern winter storms that we had, I was called out to this property immediately after, it was the first or second one of them. The wall that you see in the photos that had been overtopped to the amount that enough water got behind it to really compromise the wall. That's about 6 feet of extra water on top of the high tide that day. So the one to the east held up a little bit better. It's getting more undermining, but particularly under number 11, or at number 11, it's just too low. And then structural compromise at 15 with the concrete. I think what they're proposing will be better. What they currently have now is a combination of some kind of lower toe stones at 11 and some just sheets in the front, which when you do get waves tend to reflect more than anything. So this will absorb a little bit better than what we were doing. My one note I'd like to see talked about and potentially changed is construction note number 5 on the first sheet. It says sand to be placed minimum elevation 5 in front of the new revetment. I'd rather see sand placed on the face of the rocks itself and not necessarily on the beach where it's going to be taken away essentially immediately because of how close you have mean high water there. So we like to have sand placed on top of the wall and then have it kind of naturally taken down and fill in the crevices as time goes, and still have benchmarks. I'd like to see 3, one on the east, one on the west, and one kind of in the middle where the two properties meet. And when you do the as-built, see what elevation that is and make sure you make the benchmarks, which are usually drill holes, and annually, early spring, you check to make sure that those benchmarks are not exposed, and if they are, it needs to be renourished that spring to refill that. I would just be concerned that if you put the nourishment on the beach, pretty close to mean high water in front of the rocks, and that's kind of how that condition reads. I don't know if that's the intent, but I think it would be washed away almost immediately.
I think it was on the beach going up onto the wall, but just up to 5. So
As much as you can on the wall, because it will just get pulled down. It'll keep it there a little bit longer. It'll be a little bit more of a natural, as much as we can, natural way of nourishing the beach there. Let's see. I think that's essentially it. They'll replant with American beach grass. I'd like to see maybe a little bit of combination with seaside goldenrod, maybe some butterfly weed on top there, some variation on top of the wall. Those conditions, I would recommend approval. I say a benefit is that now they're not really required to do the nourishment. They do it when they can or if they can, but now once the beach reaches a certain elevation, they'll be required to do so in a kind of a sand-starved area. So.
Okay. Thank you. Sophia?
No, I agree with Amy. I don't have any other questions.
Have no remarks. Looks like a good plan to me.
Vivian?
No questions?
Wayne?
Looks like a good plan to me.
Okay, I have a couple things. One is, I noted, I think you referred to it as something that happened in 2007, the extra facing on the bulkhead in front of 11, which is AZEC, as far as I can tell, i.e. plastic. I would like to see that removed before any of the other construction is done. We don't want, and I assume that eventually that plastic would get chipped and eroded away by wave action against all the rocks that are in front of that. I think it should be removed completely.
I think that'll come right off because it's so new. But the idea is to remove everything they can of that.
Right.
Because it's going to be in the
Okay.
way.
I suggest we include that as a condition. My other question is, or point or whatever, is about the lawn areas on these properties. We were out there a couple of years ago when we were looking at 15, is it?
There was some unauthorized work that was done on the property, yeah.
And when we were out there, whenever that was, a couple of weeks ago, I couldn't really tell. It's hard to tell this time of year what's going on with the lawn, but I would just comment that we will include, as we always do, a condition that there is to be no fertilizer, herbicides, or pesticides. And I would actually request that we use no nutrient-containing soil amendments in the condition for any of those areas. And we would request that the owners and the land manager who is here, please keep that in mind and comply with that as time goes on. Otherwise, looks good to me. I agree with Amy.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from in the room or online? Hearing none. Any further discussion on the commission? We have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the plan for 11 and 15 Shore Road, map 2, parcel B1-14 and B1-11.
Second.
For the conditions that we're talking about.
Okay, moved and seconded by Mark. Further comments? Oh.
Sorry, I do.
Okay.
Are we gonna talk about the conditions
At the
next time?
meeting,
Okay,
yes.
all right, then I'll pick up then.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 0.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Yasowski.
Mr. Chairman, I want to check Mr. Peterson, maybe on the phone now. Sorry, that's who I was messaging. The owner of 277 Great Western might be on now.
Do we have Mr. Peterson on the phone? Are you muted, Mr. Peterson?
Does he have to hit anything, Matt, if he's on a phone?
Hello?
Hello, this is Rodrigo, Mrs. Pearson's contact.
Mr. Rodrigo, his contractor.
Okay. All right. You have the floor, sir.
No. What did you say?
You may speak now.
I'm here to do whatever I need to do. I'm just here to watch pregnant. I'm here to listen more than talk.
You're here to listen, not to talk.
Would you
Okay.
like me to?
I'm here. I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
All right, I will, if you want, because Mr. Peterson is having a harder time logging in. I've been trying to email him.
Oh, okay.
So if you want, I've been working with Mr. Peterson and his engineer, John O'Reilly. So if you want, I'll just remind you of what happened here and the plan that's been come up with to move forward, which I am endorsing. So at 277 Great Western Road, it came to our attention that there had been a lot of clear cutting that had been done on the property. This has a coastal bank, and it is on the upper reaches of Coy Brook, leading to Herring River. So when we got to the site, a lot of work had been done without a permit. Work had been immediately stopped, and the gentleman that was just on the phone, it was his company that was doing the work. They did immediately stop, but a lot of work had been done. So the Conservation Commission had them in for a show cause hearing a little bit ago. You directed them to file an after-the-fact notice of intent with a restoration plan for the area, which they have done so as fast as they could. Actually did it in a very timely manner. I was able to work with the owner and engineer to design a plan that I think will, over time, restore the area and actually include a little bit more species diversity to it. About 20 trees had been removed, and these are trees that were above 2-inch caliber. I didn't count the smaller things. And all the shrub layer, it was stripped down to dirt. There's a lot of root mass still in the banking that will regenerate. What's wonderful about this site is there's essentially no invasives. So we want to keep it that way. So let's revegetate it as much as we can. So keeping in mind that you're going to get some regrowth, the plan that you have in front of you is what was come up with. It's a combination of red maple, white oak, white pine, some black cherry, arrowwood, sweet pepper bush, and high bush blueberry to be seeded with a New England conservation mix. And essentially, so that's the plan. It would be done, I would say we should require that the work be done this spring to get this underway. If the commission's in agreement with that, I think an outstanding issue we have to talk about is fines. Both the owner and the contractor have been present and worked with us, but the owner, I would say I would actually recommend fining a little bit more minimally, because they are going to be restoring this entire area and have been very responsive. But I would like to send a message to contractors that, you know, we're always here to answer if people have questions whether or not they're working within our jurisdiction. This whole thing could have been avoided had due diligence been done on both the contractors and the owner's part. So my recommendation would be $300 for the owner, as they have been exceptionally responsive. And this is a very good plan coming forward, and $900 for the contractor. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Anything to add from the contractor or owner if they're online? If not, we'll go to questions or comments from the commission. Hearing none. Wayne?
Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to look at this, but it looks like it was quite a violation.
Yes.
How many trees were roughly used? You got
20.
20 trees were taken down?
It was stripped, the whole property, it was stripped,
Really?
this whole area.
It's true that the stump sprouts, they will sprout and regenerate, they should. Mostly oaks and stuff. Pines don't usually do that.
It was a lot of oaks, but some shrub layer as well, which will resprout.
Yeah.
You'll see,
Potential fine is pretty big. They're $300 a piece.
it could be, yes.
Yeah, we're talking about $6 grand. I don't know, 900 sounds a little short to me.
I understand.
I mean, people, you know, you gotta know better. You're in business doing things like this, you know, you gotta know there's a wetland out there. There's a great big marsh out there, for God's sakes.
Well, we'll see what the commission has to
May I comment as a concerned citizen?
You can wait. We'll let you comment after the commission has had a chance to make their comments. I will open it up.
Thank you.
Vivian?
Yeah, I was on site. It was a site, so I kind of agree with what Wayne had to say about it.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, I'm pretty much there, the same with everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would like to see 1,800 for a fine. Unless, Amy, you have any?
No, I would just say I have to provide, so these fines can be contested, which is not a problem, and I do agree with you. I went a little light because of a first-time violation, even though it's a big one.
Yeah,
But I would just have to, the reason I went with 900 is because there were kind of three different succinct activities as I saw them. So it's, you can find up to 300 per activity. Technically, each tree is a different activity, so we can frame it that way. So ultimately, you could find up to $6 grand. I did trees, shrubs, and basically what I considered ground cover disturbance is how I came up with the 900. But if you wanted me to explain in the violation letter that, you know, you could have fined up to this amount, but you're only fining to this, I think that should hold too.
Okay, well, I will only say that I agree with my fellow commissioners. It is an egregious violation, and Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. I don't know what the right number is. I agree that 900 is a little light. But let's hear what other people have to say, but I just want to ask simple clarification for the plan here. There's two plans. One is planting detail, and the
Yep.
other is just planting plan, but is the left-hand one, is that trees
That was
that were
what was-
removed?
Correct.
I see, okay. That's all. That's all I wanted to know. And just point out that could be $300 per tree, it could be $300 per shrub.
Yep.
Did you even count the shrubs? You don't even know,
There was
right?
really, honestly, no way to do
Yeah,
that.
so I'm just pointing out that one
It could
could
be-
interpret the situation as 6,000 as being limited.
Yep.
So I do think, I agree, a point needs to be made. So, but let's hear what people in the public, we'll start with people in the room, if there's anyone in the room who cares to comment here. Otherwise,
I'm happy to go. So I've spent my life on Cape Cod seeing people dramatically tear down all of the trees here. And I appreciate that they're planning on plantings to mitigate the damages. However, those are hypothetical, and because the violations are so severe that this group doesn't always have the time, I imagine, to check that every person who's violated has completed the follow-up restorations. I'm speaking from having seen it being a problem in Chatham. I don't know the issue as well in Harwich, but I would advocate for a strong penalty to dissuade people from doing this further.
If you could say who you are, please, that would help for the minutes.
Hi, my name is Dorothy Bassett. I own 10 Hardin Lane in Harwich.
Thank you.
okay. Thank you. Anything more?
If I may add, one of the conditions I would anticipate here is that there will be monitoring required for these, that they have to be planted this spring, and that there will be twice annual monitoring reports required as per a typical large restoration plan.
Okay. Anyone care to make further comments about the fine?
Well, I think it should be $300 for the 20 trees per tree, and be thankful it's not $60,000 counting all the shrubbery and stuff. And, you know,
But to whom? To the owner or the contractor or both?
that's a good question. Was the owner there and at the time it was being done?
No. The owner
Did the
conveyed that
contractor
they did
have
not
Did the
believe.
contractor have instructions to do it from the owner?
What I was told, and I can only say what I was told, was that more was done than requested.
And probably the contractor should have to pay then.
But I don't know.
As I see it in that particular case, my opinion would be to issue the fine to the owner and let the owner dispute it with the contractor. The message is still going to get sent. But ultimately, the buyer needs to beware. If you engage in an activity and you are the principal in that activity, you accept responsibility. That would be my opinion. And I can think of another case in town where we had a pretty egregious situation, and it was a very significant fine. So the numbers we're talking about here, at anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 in fines, I don't think is out of reach. I don't think it's unfair. I think it's in keeping with how we've reacted to these things in the past.
Okay, Sophia?
I think that at least half of the onus should be on the owner, because that's where all of the work started. I think regardless of whether more was done than was requested is really not on the table for us to know.
Right.
But I think it's, that work was asked for. There's a water view that is being wanted, and that work got done because this homeowner wanted to see more of the water, and now they can, but that's, you know, I mean, it's just not. So I would say, yeah, I guess I would say at least half should be on the owner, but I would lean toward what Mark said.
So I don't agree that we should just find the owner and not the contractor, because in so many cases, it's absentee owners who are having work done and leave it up to the contractor to figure out the details. And it's really up to the contractor to be aware and do the right thing. And those are two separate requirements. A, be aware, and B, once you're aware, do the right thing. And I imagine sometimes contractors aren't aware, but I would also imagine almost all the time they're perfectly well aware of what the requirements are. And when we have these problems, frequently it's because a contractor just decides they're gonna do what has to be done. And I actually like what Sophia was suggesting, is we determine a fine and split it 50-50 between the contractor and the owner.
Do we know who the contractor was? Are we allowed to know that?
Yes, we do, and they are present.
What company?
Can't remember the company off the top of my head, but of course I have it in an email.
Not that really matters, but we'll figure it out.
We have their information. It's a property management service, essentially.
Well, I kind of agree with Mac's point and Sophia's point too, that it should be a good split. Originally, I thought just the contractor, but it should be that, so it sounds more reasonable to me.
You care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we, what are we doing here?
Well, I think so there probably should be two separate motions. One is to approve the restoration planting plan. So one vote for that, and then a separate motion and vote for confined.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. I'll make a motion, we approve the restoration plan for 277 Great Western Road, map 38, parcel A1-11, after the fact, shrub removal and tree removal.
Second.
And just to clarify, we're approving the notice of intent for the restoration.
Right.
Correct, there'll be a separate motion for fines.
Okay, moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0. I'll make a motion that the motion has two parts. We find the contractor, whose name Amy has, $3,000 for the violation, and we fine the owner $3,000.
I'll second that motion.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's 5-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, next we have a request for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for 50 Main Street Extension, map 55, parcel E1-1, concerning a non-perennial stream determination for mapped hydraulic connection.
They've asked for a continuance to March 19th. That was what Dan was talking about earlier, because they have to notify their abutters.
So I move we continue this matter to March 19.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. Next, we have a request for determination of applicability for 175 Gorham Road, map 24, parcel R4, for enclosing a 108 square foot area to connect two existing rooms. Yes, sir. Please state your names. for the
John
record.
Shaw, 175 Gorham Road.
Roberta Shaw, 175 Gorham Road.
Okay, thank you. You have the floor.
It's a small project where, over the years, the house has had several rooms added to it. There's a dining room on one side and a breezeway on the other. There should be a picture of this in your package. And it's created a very cut-up workflow in the house, so we're kind of enclosing the space between these two rooms, and it's 9 by 12. And that's allowing us to create a kitchen great room type area in doing so. We've been to the ZBA, the Historic Commission, and the Health Commission, and all have approved the plan to this date. Did you have something, Brad? That's it?
That's it. Amy?
Pretty straightforward. The only resource area that this is with is AE flood zone. So the actual wetland itself is not close enough to have any impact here into jurisdiction. As it's flood zone, you don't have a mitigation requirement. It's kind of enclosing a space that's in between two wings or areas of the house. So it's in an area that's currently grass. I don't see any adverse impact to the floodplain as a result of this 108 square foot addition. So I would recommend a negative approval with a -2 determination.
Okay. Sophia?
I have no questions.
Mark?
I agree with Amy.
Vivian? Wayne?
Pretty simple, I agree.
One question. There are utilities in that area? There's a condenser, and I forget what else. I think there's a header for your irrigation system.
There's a, the access for the gas line is there, and we're already in the process of working with National Grid to have that moved. And there's a backflow valve there, and that'll be moved as well.
So, I don't know if there's any issues with flood regulations, but it's not shown on the plan what you're doing with those things.
That will be subject to building code.
So there's, in terms of just flood things, we
That
don't
I'm
have
not
to
sure
worry
because
about that.
this
It's not
isn't
our concern.
triggering the 50% rule, but anything new, I think would have to comply. So, again, I can just check with the building department.
all right.
It doesn't trigger us.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further? Anybody have any comments in the room or online? Hearing none, any further discussion? Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll move for approval for 175 Gorham Road for the application as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, we have a request for determination of applicability for 13 Hardin Road, map 76, parcel A4, for the construction of a backyard fence. Do we have someone to advocate here?
Hi, I'm Diane Imbriani from 13 Hardin Lane.
Hardin Lane.
I just want a fenced-in an area for my dogs, so I can open the door and let them out and keep them safe from whatever's out there in the woods. Whatever may be out there.
That's it?
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay, good.
Very
Understood.
simple.
Amy,
So the proposed work is within the 200-foot riverfront area to Muddy Creek. Just as some background, it came to our attention that the owner was removing a couple of trees up closer to home. We went out there, Lily, my assistant agent, went out there, and these trees were approved to be cut administratively. But it was noted that the wanting to do a fence as well would trigger a larger filing. Kind of had we probably would have done the whole thing as one had we known. That being said, since spoken with the owner here, the fence as proposed originally was going to be slightly within the 100-foot riverfront area. And as per the Mass Rivers Act, if there's not already something there structurally, it really can't be. So the owner has pulled back the proposed fencing, and that's the plan that you have here in front of you. The slight revision with the blue writing is the revised fenced-in area there. We also discussed on site, because it is a pretty open spot, as mitigation for some of the tree work and the fencing, is that some restoration planting, some mitigation planting of some native shrubs would be appropriate here. I do know that you don't own all the way down
Correct.
to the water. It would have been ideal to have put them down there, but you don't own all the way down there. So my suggestion would be, it's kind of hard to quantitate, because we usually do square footage of structure, and do 2 times that for mitigation, but for a fence, that's not a whole lot. So my recommendation was a minimum of 200 square feet, kind of along existing wood line, to help contribute to some of the diversity and habitat value on the site. And I think it's a small enough number. I'd be happy to work with the owner on the exact species and appropriate placement of those things. And provided, we can come to an agreement, those plantings would have to be done at the same growing season as the installation of the fence. I would recommend approval.
okay, thank you. Wayne?
I don't have anything. Pretty simple to me.
Nothing?
Vivian? Mark?
I agree with Amy.
Sophia?
Nothing for me.
I was just doing the sums in my head, the linear feet of the fence. I didn't get it exact, but it's well over 200 feet. So I'm just wondering if 200 square feet, what?
The linear feet, this is gonna be a chain link fence.
Right. Well, chain link on the
You could do by
sides.
square footage.
I understand that, but if you take a foot-wide area
Yeah.
along a fence,
Yep.
which is probably, sort of on the low end of the disturbance of putting in the fence, you get more than 200 square feet there. So I'm just
It
wondering,
would-
what do we normally do for disturbed area in the 100 to 200 foot?
2 to 1 in terms of square footage of new structure to, mitigation is the 2.
And where,
Structure would be 1.
2 to 1, you're saying?
2 to 1. Mitigation is 2, new structure is 1, yes. In the outer riparian zone.
And there isn't shown, but I think you've discussed with the owner the location and nature of, is it here?
It's not on the plan, but basically along more towards the north and south property lines. It almost I mean, we could put it at the base of your property, but it almost doesn't make sense, because then there's like a mowed swath to the river.
Yeah.
So we typically look towards enhancing what already is natural vegetation, which would be, I don't know if that's north-south, sorry, I mean, so up here, down here.
Yes, yeah, the whole right side.
Yeah, I mean, none of this is north-south as far as
It's not,
No.
So
trying to,
the back line that goes like
I think it's actually
northwest to
It's
southeast,
east-west, yeah,
That-
the east-west lines,
you mean along this line?
yes.
I'd just like to see that expand a little myself.
Okay,
That's fine.
the owner is willing
Yeah.
to do a little bit, to do some
Yeah,
more.
absolutely. This is important for me to have it done, so I'm happy to do what we need to do to get it done.
I'd say in this case, I would like to at least match the linear feet of the total fence in square feet of mitigation. So, and I don't know what that is, I didn't do it all in my head, but I'd say
Okay, so
just
match.
300. Well, I would call it just 300
That's what I
square
was
feet.
gonna suggest.
And what about just the whole, that whole side? It's like 280 feet, my property line, something like that.
Well, some
ballpark.
of it's not within the 200-foot riverfront area, we'll have
Oh,
to be.
okay, yeah, yeah.
I'm happy to meet with you, it's probably a double row of mix of appropriate shrubs there.
Yeah,
I'm happy to meet with you, if the commission is comfortable with that, to do
That's fine.
300 square feet. And it's just to be eventually denaturalized, not to be a planting bed.
right, yeah, no, I have no interest in weeding a bed, I'm all set with that. It's bad enough there's a lawn that won't be watered or fertilized. If
I
I,
can work with you if you want to eliminate that.
not a fan of the whole lawn thing.
Happy to offer guidance in transitioning that into sort of a field meadow if you want to.
Yeah,
Outside of the fence.
yeah, yep, absolutely.
Okay. Anything further? Any public comment?
Hello,
Hello.
this is Peter Lapointe, 7 Hardin Lane.
Okay.
I just want to bring to the commission's attention that there are 4 properties on the street that share access to Muddy Creek along that frontage. And I'm not certain, because we haven't, there was no posting of the plan, how that might impact our shared right of access to the creek.
I'd be more than happy to provide you with the plan. It's just a requirement that they notify you of the hearing. But I'm more than happy to show you the plan. It is in no way impacting your access. It is completely on their property, and there's plenty of room to get down to your communal access there. But I'd be happy if you send me an email. If you go on the town website, on the Conservation Department, you can find me, and I'd be happy to provide you with a copy of the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name's Dorothy Bassett, 10 Hardin Lane. I just wanted to ask if the area has been surveyed by any chance, because it abuts Harwich Conservation property.
The plan that was used to overlay, to sketch on, is a surveyed plan, stamped by an engineer.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Have to leave a few beats, I guess. Takes a minute for people to find their mute button. So, hearing nothing more, further comments from the commission. So, anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve the -2 and -3 determination for 13 Haddon Road, I believe it is, map 76, parcel A4.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank
be in
you.
touch
Yeah,
likely
definitely.
next week, and we can walk the site and talk
Yeah,
about
that'd be
the
awesome.
replanting, okay?
Excellent, honey. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too.
Oh, one question. Do I need anything in writing to have my fence guy?
You need to get the permit, which
Okay.
will be issued probably mid-next week.
Okay.
And then just want to make sure, I'd like you to have the corners staked out, and I'd like to
Yeah.
look at it, so.
I'll have him
When
do
we
that.
meet next week, yeah, so if he could stake out the revised corners, that would be great. And
Yep.
when we meet sometime, hopefully next week, I can just check it off for you.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. So next is a request for amended orders of conditions for 117 Riverside Drive, map 4-A1, parcel A11, SE 32.2579, for the construction of a single-family house and appurtenant site work.
You can also scan in the future if you ever want to.
Thanks. Good evening, thanks. Bob Perry, Cape Cod Engineering. I'm representing Alan and Amy Delaney. They were here a few months ago for a notice of intent for the new home construction at 117 Riverside Drive. We had an initial meeting, and then it was decided that the applicant would go back and redesign and really cut the house down quite a bit, dropped a bedroom, took about 1,000 square feet off of it. And we came back within a week, and the architect was moving quickly, and we were primarily interested in the footprint change. And it's a gambrel roof, and it's complicated. So when the architect finally set to work to finalize the house design after the approval, he came up with something in order to make this work, to get a stairway up into between the garage and the house to the second floor of the garage. He came up with 144 square feet more to the house footprint, and with a minor adjustment to make it fit where we're way at the back of the triangle you see on that building envelope. We have 64 square foot increase in the buffer zone. We're at the very far landward edge of the buffer, and the rotation of the house, there was no expansion of the house, but the rotation of the building made the setback from the coastal bank go from, I believe it was a maximum of 93 feet to 91 feet. I'm speaking from memory, but I have it on the plan. So we have a 144 square foot addition to the mitigation for this. The site lent itself to further mitigation, so Phil Cheney altered his mitigation plan to be adding 288 square feet. And we changed our plan, of course, to show the change to the footprint. And I think Amy and I agreed it was fitting for an amended order. But the hearing where it was approved went quite quickly, and there didn't seem to be any issues. This is not a significant expansion, but it makes the house design work. And if the architect if we'd taken, say, 3 weeks between the two meetings, I think this would have been the design of the house that you were presented with. So we were primarily concentrating on footprint. So we're back before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy?
Yeah, I agree that had this come in front of us as that redraft, essentially the first plan, that I would recommend approval of it. I think we would have approved it. I think it still meets the intention of the Rivers Act. It's a minor addition, and what they're proposing to do is further enhance the inner riparian zone to the river, the area most critical for habitat, stability, and everything like that. So I would recommend that you approve the amended order for these revised plans as presented.
Thank you. Sophia?
I have no questions.
You have no questions?
Vivian?
Is this the house that's next to the Sullivan property now?
Yes.
No, I don't have anything. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, I don't have any comments either, so, do we have any comments or questions from the public? Looks like we don't. have a motion?
I'll make a motion for an amended order of conditions for 117 Riverside Drive, map 4-A1, parcel A11, SE number 32.2579.
Second.
Seconded by Vivian. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
As there's not going to be any revised conditions, there's just updated plans. I have the signature page for you.
Okay.
We'll get that out to you soon.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Pretty helpful. Thank you.
And,
Very helpful.
okay, now we have a request for an amended order of conditions for 74 Depot Road, map 44, parcel P2, SE 32-2551, to raise and replace a single-family dwelling and install a new septic system.
I need to get myself a travel one because the ones in this room just disappear. So you have to keep it in mountains.
Yeah.
I'll take them. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. My name's Peter Lavoy. I am the new owner of this property, and also I am a civil engineer. So I bought this property in November, roughly, and it already had an order of conditions, septic approval. So my wife is in the audience with me. So we did not like the location and the size of the house that was approved. So we went to an architect and we came up with a new location. So you can see the red is what was approved by the commission. And then this is the new location of the house. The original house was 101 feet away from the wetlands. The new house location, the closest point is 152 feet away. So that is one modification. The house is reduced in size. The original house footprint was roughly 1,500 square feet in size. Our house that we would like to construct is 1,300 square feet. So we did reduce the size. We also moved. They had a driveway that came to. This is the proposed garage, and then this was the house. So now we did also purchase 72. So the driveway is no longer going into 74. We have a small turnaround area in front, so we removed the gravel driveway that was also closer to the wetlands. So that's one of the major changes to the plan. The other one is they have an existing cottage in this location here, and because of the construction of the approved house, it would have had to come down. So what we would like to do is we would like to convert that because it does have some history. It was constructed in 1959. So we would like to just remodel that and convert it into a shed. That would be 84 feet away from this wetland here. But I'm proposing to put gutters on the shed and direct it into a dry well in this location here. So I want to collect all the roof runoff and put it into a dry well in the yard, as well as the roof runoff from the house will be collected, and it would be into two recharge areas. There will be a gutter on this side, and it would go into this dry well, and then a gutter on this side and go into this dry well in there. The septic system location has not changed. That's staying the same. It was approved already by conservation. The only change to the septic, I'm adding a microfast system to the septic tank. I know that the Cape has issues with nitrogen loading, so I wanted to add that for some pre-treatment. But the leach field is in the same exact location that was approved. The cottage or the converted shed will have no plumbing in it. It's just going to be for storage. The original approval does show plumbing coming out, which was going to be abandoned, and then into a leaching area way over here. That still remains. There's going to be no plumbing in that existing structure. That's basically it. Just to let you know, the erosion control has been installed. Lily went out there and I met with her, yep, and Amy also. And then we have started, the lot was cleared because we had an order of conditions. The sign is already up. We had a pre-construction meeting. The grade is basically the same that was approved. No grading changes from the original to what we want to do. The grades are the same on the lot. I just wanted to let you know that erosion control was installed. I also had the structure staked. I don't know, I had emailed Lily just to let her know if anyone wanted to go out there and see where the house location was. I did stake the house location, and that's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
A couple of us went out the other day just to recheck it, and so essentially the new structure, the new home is still well outside the 100-foot buffer outside of our jurisdiction. But instead of removing the cottage, they want to keep it, and the existing cottage at 84 feet away from the wetland, it predates the Wetlands Protection Act and our regulations. So provided that they keep it on the same exact footprint or less, I saw it as an approvable request under an amendment. They're not increasing any structure in our jurisdiction, so no mitigation is necessarily required. There are a couple of burning bushes, winged euonymus, just outside the limit of work line facing west, that we would love you to remove and yank out while you're there, and maybe replant with a few natives under our direction. But I think it's great that you're adding a microfast component. You have a little, a shallow pond, wet area down there, and anything to improve water quality is a good thing. So in terms of conservation, very minimal for us here. So I'd recommend approval of the amendment request.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have anything.
Anything?
I have no remarks.
Nothing for me.
I agree with Amy, so I have no further remarks. Seems like an improvement to me. It might be. Anyone from the public?
Come up to the microphone and introduce yourself, that'd be great. Sure. Thank you.
My name's Michael Payne, and I live and I'm the owner of 62 Depot Road. So I'm your neighbor. And nice to meet you. And I just have a couple, not so much the kind of questions for my information. I haven't seen the plan. I did come up the other day and spoke with Lily.
Yep.
And she showed them to me.
Okay.
But I'd like to get a copy of them.
Absolutely.
If that's in the public domain.
Yep, I actually think I gave you the wrong folder, Sophia. I think the folder is for this one's over there.
It's, sorry, I feel like.
Oh, it's all right.
That's okay. I'm glad you're going to be able to salvage the old cottage and make another use of it. It'll keep the teenagers away once you're there. And there used to be a wild beehive in the walls. I don't know if they're still around, but they pollinate my heathers. And if they're still there, if they could be reclaimed, that would be great.
Okay.
And I've spoke to apiarists, in the past, I played on softball team last summer with a guy who's with Cape Cod Apiary or something, it's a society.
Yeah.
They could do that.
Oh, if you give me his phone number, I'll contact him.
I'll try to get his name.
Okay.
He's living in a tent somewhere. Other than that, there's that 40, thank you very much. Can I keep this?
Yep, that's for you.
Cheers. Other than that, I have to say that it hurt me to see all those trees come down in your lot. I know you gotta build a house and they gotta come down, but I just wanna make sure that was a 30-foot or 40-foot wide strip of land that the town owns, that is between your lot and
Oh,
mine.
yeah, windswept way, right here. Right away.
Right.
Where are we? I'm
Yeah, so
lost.
this is the.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's called
Windswept
windswept
Way?
way. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm.
I always thought that was a right-of-way for the town
It
connected
is
to
town-owned,
the
but it's known as a
old
way.
bog.
Yeah, it is it's, right, but it's never gonna be, improved or anything.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure because there's a lot of
Mhm.
wild critters that use that strip of land and your lots as a way of communicating. I've seen what are they called, fisher cats go through and all kinds of critters. So I just want to make sure that that's not going to be touched or cleared or.
All we can say is that nothing on town land obviously can be done without
Okay.
approval from the town, and that anything certainly within the 100-foot buffer as you get closer to the wetland would have to be doubly protected.
Sure, okay. So, other than that, I enjoy your property and look forward to having you as neighbors, okay?
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the public? Hearing none. We could have a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the request for an amended order of conditions for 74 Depot Road, map 44, parcel P2, SE number 32-2551.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
5 and
Thank you.
Uh,
0.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll be out the door hopefully sometime next week.
Okay, next, we have several items for discussion and possible vote. First is an unresolved violation at 435 Route 28, SE 32-2554, for the relocation of an unpermitted structure.
So I requested that the Patels be here.
Okay,
The Conservation Commission issued an order of conditions in April of last year to either pursue permitting to relocate the structure as we permitted them to do, or to remove it. I've heard nothing at all until today about it. There were several timelines in your orders of conditions. They were to pursue permitting, and then if they couldn't get permits, they were to remove the structure within 9 months. They were to provide us with a update in the fall, which was not done. So, at this point, the floor is yours.
Hi, so my name is Sahil Patel, live at 18 Moody Road, Harwichport, and this is my uncle. Just want to say that he was in India for 4 months, from September to December. He got back in January, and totally forgot out of his mind. But we understand that's a mistake, and would like to get it fixed as soon as possible. And at the end, I know we tried moving it to a different location, but there is no valuable, like if we move it to the parking lot, we cut a parking lot, and there are tanks underneath. But we'd like to see if we could cut down the size of the shed at the same location and cut it down by like 4 or 6 feet to make it smaller, and if we could keep it at the same location.
So technically, that could be a request. However, this is well within the 50-foot no disturb zone to the wetland. It's a
It's
few
not going-
feet from the wetland.
Okay,
It is not something that I could recommend keeping at all in
Oh.
that location.
so,
But that is up to the commission. We can't really open up that discussion. It's not a hearing about the change in size tonight.
okay,
But if they could tell you whether or not they would be willing to entertain that. But as it stands, my recommendation is immediate removal with a demo permit from the building department.
okay.
Thank you. We'll start with Sophia.
I don't know if I have anything to add right now. Sorry, I guess I do. I think I would just go with Amy's recommendation for what she, recommends in terms of keeping the structure.
No, as I see it, there's no substitute for taking it out of that site, so.
Vivian.
Yeah, I mean, Amy's recommendation makes sense. Why, can I ask why you would want to keep it and make
So-
it smaller in size?
The only reason why I want to keep it is because it has equipments of like pulling out water when it rains too much. Like our whole tank area where the underground tanks is, it gets all flooded out. So we like to pick up some water and throw it on our side of so the water doesn't go inside the tanks. It gets whole big flooded out there. And there are like gardening equipments and everything. That's why we just have that small area up there. And a little bit of backstock for our sodas and everything.
So you would use it for storage?
Storage, yeah. Nothing major in there. We don't keep, we have beer, wine, and liquor license, but that's liquor is seasonal. We keep it all inside the building. It's just like sodas and everything that's not too valuable, or someone who breaks in can have it. That's the only things that are in stock up there.
I don't have any other questions.
I agree with Amy's recommendation. A lot of stuff has been ignored and not taken care of when it was supposed to.
Yeah, I agree with Amy too. There really isn't any excuse for you having just completely ignored things in the country or out of the country.
Right.
That's not really our issue. The issue is it's almost in the wetlands, and we never would have given you a permit to build that structure. And you were required to come to us and ask for a permit before you built the structure, so.
I understand, but when I came into the town before, they told me like under 200 square feet, I don't require a permit to get it done.
Well, I don't know.
Would have required a shed permit at minimum, which you never got.
Okay,
Anything under, even up to 100 square feet, you require that. And because you actually attached it to the building, I don't believe it's actually considered a shed. But that's a building department issue, but something is required. It's been almost a year since we were here, so having heard nothing, I understand that you were gone for a few months, but we've heard nothing. So
okay, because.
it's kind of forced our hand here.
Yeah, I talked to my lawyer, and he talked to like contacting the building department, but didn't hear anything back, and.
I'm not sure about that because I've talked to our building, and I know your attorney's a good attorney, but the building commissioner's the one who's been asking me about what's happening here.
Okay, so I think I need to talk to my lawyer.
Well,
We're
what you
always
need to
here,
do is
too.
take.
We're here. You can
Yeah.
come up to town hall
Yeah,
and talk to us, so,
sorry.
Well, so,
sorry.
I was jumping the gun. We need to vote here, right? Or
My
do we?
recommendation is removal within 60 days. I was gonna say 30, but you do need to get a demo permit with the building department. So my recommendation is removal within 60 days and reseeding of that area. At this point, I mean, it should have been removed a long time ago. And failure to do so could result in daily fines.
Okay.
And I would suggest that we can go along with the 60 days, but evidence of the demo permit within 30 days. So, because I don't want to wait 60 days and find that you haven't done anything. since that seems to be the pattern here. So what do we need to do here? We need to make a
We need
motion
to
to,
issue an enforcement order, vote to issue an enforcement order to remove the offending structure and restore the area within 60 days.
so moved with the addition that evidence of a permit for demolition be provided to Amy within 30 days from today.
I'll see it, 'cause I have to sign off on it.
What about the recommendation for the $600 fine?
Let's do this and then
Do
deal
that?
with a
Okay.
fine.
All right.
So I've made a motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
second that motion.
Is there further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Now, let's discuss the fine. Do you have a
Because they have
thought?
not complied with their orders of conditions, you do have the ability to fine at the moment if you wish to.
And you're recommending 600, 300 for two different offenses?
Yep. 300 for not removing the structure within 9 months, and 300 for just no correspondence as required in the permit. I'm sorry.
Discussion? Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for the $600 fine for not removing the structure within 9 months. And also just to let them know that if, after May 5th, if the thing is not out of there, that it could be $300 per day, just so you know that.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have discussion, possible vote for, for an update regarding 50 Main Street extension violation.
Not a huge update. I didn't tell them they had to come here, so they've retained Dan Croto of Moran Engineering and Lynn Hamlin, who are also supposed to be on here tonight for 54 Main Street for wetland delineation. This was the clear cut that happened on what was an old ditch stream. They have done the study, the river study. Basically, you have to determine if in a non-regulatory drought period, if there's any water flow over a period of 4 days. It's a perennial stream. I'll let you stay in suspense about their findings till they come here, but they've done the study, they're preparing the paperwork. This was important to determine whether it was just essentially a wetland, a 100-foot setback, or a 200-foot riverfront area, and would have an implication for what they would have to restore. So he has been diligent and moving. Just wanted to give you that update.
Questions or discussion, anybody?
We have that. Is that what you're talking about?
That is for the neighbor. That is going to be continued. So save your stuff on 54 Main.
Okay.
It's the same wetland system, but it's, he actually, 54 hired him first because he wanted to do a construction on his property to the west. So when they did that study, he didn't look really on the east side of that wetland, so we had to re-look at it.
Yeah, there's a little,
It's an old bog, kind of
Real
connecting bogs to
Right.
there's probably a channel in the middle.
Yeah.
It connected everything.
Yep. And dry as long as I can remember.
Well,
Anyway, we'll
it's,
talk about that when they,
it's dry.
Uh-huh.
It's dry, but there's still a wetland, we'll say that.
Oh, yeah, definitely,
Yeah, yeah.
the old barn, sure,
Yeah.
all the place.
But anyway, you'll see that soon.
Okay. Next, we have discussion and possible vote on the Herring River study update.
So we just got that today, and I even have not had a chance to read it, trying to prep for tonight's meeting. So, we can have a discussion tonight if you want. We can go over what we had requested that they refine when we, if you want, or we can discuss this fully on the 19th.
Probably a good thing to do, we all can take a look at it.
Yeah, you just got it, and I will provide you a copy now that the commission has gotten a copy. Actually, if you want mine, you can feel free and take it home, or I can give it to you electronically, whichever you prefer. So,
Yeah, if
I'm
you,
not prepared to have a fruitful discussion tonight, seeing as how we just get it, so I'm sorry that you stayed for this. But, and then the commission, we can decide to, they are required, TRC companies is required to do a public hearing on this, or a public meeting on this. It's up to you. I think it would be more fruitful, once you have once you have a study that you're comfortable with, and that you're saying it's done, I'd rather have a presentation essentially to the public. But he could also attend virtually on the 19th if you wanted to. So if you read it and you still have questions, it might be worth him go-to meeting in
okay,
next, on the 19th.
I think we should do that. And then,
Does anybody have any questions now that I can relay to them? Any questions or comments? I know you just got it, so. I
okay.
think we're getting there.
We're getting there, yes.
I'm excited
Okay.
about the mapping layers. Did you want this, or do you want it emailed?
You can email it.
Okay, I'll do that in the morning, okay?
Thank you.
Sorry that you stayed.
Yeah, I guess we would have left if we knew we were talking about it.
I wasn't sure if we were going to, if they had any comments, so sorry about that. At least it's not too late,
We
but,
didn't have any problems tonight with the.
yeah.
with the
All right, so we'll put this on the 19th.
Okay. And next, or last, and last, under discussion and possible vote, is a wrap-up of the January 31st nutrient management meeting and discussion of next steps.
So I don't know about all of you, I thought we had a really productive meeting on, what was it, January 31st?
Was?
I will say, I actually had comments from the people who were in the room that said it was the most civil discussion about nutrient management they've been in a long time. I said, and there was a lot of people from various, backgrounds in the room. People, from all aspects. So it was a really good meeting. Wanted to talk about next steps. People are asking to have another meeting on this and what topics we want to discuss. Still trying to get a hold of our greens person over at Cranberry Valley to talk about what practices are done there. I mean, I know he has a lot of expertise, and from talking to him, I know they kind of do what's most minimal, if they can do it, to keep it looking as good as it does. But want to have, John and I have talked a little bit about what a next meeting could potentially look like. We want to hear from you. John?
Well, I'd rather wait. I mean, I have some things to say, but I'd like to wait
Okay.
and hear what other people have to say about, specifically about what I want to have another meeting, or more than one more meeting. It would be nice if we could have several meetings where all we have is civil discussions, hopefully. And, but I'd like to know your ideas about what you would like to see discussed at such meetings, or what format you think would be useful and conducive. I mean, where, just an open discussion, or
Would you like another speaker?
more meetings with a more targeted speaker than just a free-for-all discussion? What are your thoughts? Go ahead, Mark.
I think the last meeting was very productive. The fact that we had a speaker that was so knowledgeable, I think, was an absolute, just made it work. I think it kind of put everybody on the same playing field, and gave everybody an opportunity to have a baseline understanding what was what. My feedback at this particular moment would be to take a hard look at the, I think there are 3 towns that have already implemented regulation. I'd be really curious to see what their feedback is, to see what kind of response, results, pushback.
Yeah.
What are their experiences?
So in that, remind me of those towns? I think.
Orleans, Nantucket, and somebody else.
I think it was Mashpee?
Mashpee, yes.
Does Falmouth have some fertilizer
I
regulation?
can check. I'm just, Mashpee, Falmouth might.
I think it would be very, very helpful to dig into that and see what they come up with.
So what are what are their regulations, how they've been implemented? I'm just gonna put an email out to them. How implemented, how's it going so far?
Yeah, general feedback.
Yep. And we can always, if they want to come and talk to us, we can certainly invite them.
Absolutely.
How about somebody from UMass?
Perfect.
And what drilled down topic, I guess? Sophia.
I'm just really stuck on the composting in buffer zones detail. Like that for me is like a nut I want to crack. And I think that we had some really good guidance from Russ the other day. But I also think that there's still like, it didn't quite get to where it needs to get, where it's like, are we judging all compost the same way? Are we, like what is the best and right thing to do, and what is a reasonable accommodation for taking care of, a healthy stand of turf that's not going to leach into the waterway that, we could give like reasonable guidelines for. I feel unsatisfied in that, and I really want to know what the answer is, if there is one. So I'm like, I mean, to piggyback off, I think it's great. I think it went really well. I really look forward to another one. Where next week's Cape Cod Landscape Association meeting, Russ is going, and that's our topic being discussed there, which I think is so good to just keep having this conversation.
What exact topic?
Turf management, nutrients with Russ.
Cape Cod Landscape
Yes.
Association?
Yeah, and it's sort of connected to the issues in the waterways, the nitrogen and the phosphorus overload.
Where is that being held?
That's a good question. I didn't quite read the email,
If we
but I
go
can forward it.
Landscape Association.
And do they tolerate people crashing the party?
Yeah.
Is it open to the public? Is it open to non-landscape folk
I
like
think
us?
so. I think so, yeah. It's Thursday night. Yeah.
Thursday night?
I'll send it to you, Amy, and maybe you can
Yep.
spread it to
I'll send it out.
everyone. But another speaker would be great. Yeah, that's, I think, for me, that is just the big question. And I think there are a couple people out there that might be good to talk to. I think it's great that, like, we were talking a little bit about the best practices. Like, I think that is a thing that everyone can get behind. But what those best
What they
practices
are,
mean,
though.
what does that look like on Cape Cod? What does that look like on Cape Cod when you're living, 50 feet from Herring River? I don't know, from
Sandbox,
wherever.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know, yeah.
Vivian?
I think you guys already covered it. I would love to hear somebody from UMass. I'd love to hear more about best practices. I thought the last meeting was super informative. I don't know if you could invite someone from, if not UMass, then I'd be curious to see what the towns, like you mentioned, like Orleans and how they tackle this. And then I keep coming back to the homeowner, as a homeowner, is that a conversation that could be had? Like, what are 5 or 6 simple things that a homeowner could ask a landscaper or somebody who's managing a property you know, where do we come into it? Like how could we come into it in a more sort of meaningful way? Because I
Yeah.
think, and I know I've said this before, you just make the assumption that whoever is managing whatever piece of
Right.
property you have, you just assume as a homeowner that they're doing the right thing and that they know what they're
Right.
doing. I think we're finding that that's not always the case.
And they're assuming that you want your lawn a certain way.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever,
Right,
you know,
exactly.
yeah.
Or you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You know, you just say,
Yeah.
go at it, you know, so, I don't know where that goes, but I think that's definitely, sort of a point that would be.
I was thinking a potential avenue to reach some of those people, especially the seasonal folks, is sometimes we have a non-resident taxpayer meeting for the town, and it actually gets pretty well attended. To have materials, potentially guidance documents put together, if they would entertain a short presentation at that meeting, so it's usually chock-a-block full, they talk about police, fire, DPW, all the big ones. But maybe we talk about our water quality issues and best, if we're ready for best management type practices. I think one thing I took away from that meeting is that everybody has an idea about what the best practices are. I mean, they're not always the same. They're generally not the same. You know, from people doing something conventional to people doing conventional but slow release to people, you know, all organic, and there's different ways and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of everyone thinks that, you know, they're doing the right thing, but what are maybe, I mean, there's probably not one. Maybe there's a few right ways to go about it. But all right, I think I have enough.
Well, Wayne, do you have anything to
Oh,
say?
sorry.
I thought it was a great meeting, and it actually changed my opinion on a couple of things. It was good. But this is all about water quality, drinking water, is it not?
It's not,
Bottom line?
I don't think it's so much about drinking water, it's about nutrients in our saltwater embayments. I mean, it is water quality. It's about algae blooms in our freshwater ponds. I haven't heard anyone talk about whether any of these things has any direct impact on public water supply. in
Well,
the town
that
of
question I
Harwich.
posed to that gentleman that meeting was that the nitrates filter down through the sand, and they
Right.
go all, no matter how deep it is, eventually they end up in the drinking water. So-
Right, but they do, and therefore, they eventually end up in the saltwater embayments.
They migrate out.
And that's an identified problem, and it's a problem that we're now spending tens, hundreds of millions of dollars to fix with sewer.
That's why we don't have scallops over the sound anymore, because all the eelgrass is gone, because all that stuff.
Yeah,
goes.
so,
Yeah,
I mean,
there's no clarity in water clarity anymore.
that might be just another topic for the public,
Right.
because I don't think that's well understood.
No.
I mean, there's this vague notion that we were forced by a consent decree in a lawsuit to do something about the amount of nitrogen that's getting into the groundwater and therefore into the saltwater embayments. And what the actual effects of that are, why that's a problem, I don't know that anybody knows. And, I mean, it's becoming really obvious to some people in town that the ponds are very deeply affected. And it's become a pretty emotional issue for some people. There isn't a consent decree in place to fix that at the moment.
Well, kind of the way I'm leaning towards something else too, that's the bugaboo line, is the road salt.
Yeah.
You know, ever since I can remember the 50s, I was born in 47, I started observing things probably in the middle 50s. They always used a mixture of sand and salt. And it was 1 part salt to 3 or 4 parts sand to put on the roads. And all of a sudden, there was a big outcry, I remember in the late 70s, I believe it was, about the salt reduction. And as a matter of fact, parts of the state highways were paved with what they call popcorn hot mix, that used to see the signs of reduced salt area for a reason, because that stuff goes into the water table, not drinking water. And all of a sudden, I noticed in the town of Harwich, and I don't know about other towns, because I don't really pay that much attention to them, But you look at after any kind of snow event or anything, 2 days later, the roads are snow white. It's
Yeah.
nothing but pure calcium chloride. And there's no sand, provide traction. And also, the sand used to help melt the ice, because when the sun shines down, it warms up the particles of sand, and it would help melt it along with the traction situation and whatnot. But now they use pure calcium chloride. And of course, you have nice looking roads after a snow thing, but where's all that salt going?
Yeah.
When it rains, it goes into the catch basins. The catch basins, it just filters right into the
Well,
ground.
and on the way there, it's creating really difficult environment for plants to thrive.
Absolutely.
You know.
You drive down, I can remember seeing on 25, Route 25 going up there, and I remember one time when I was working up that way, and the guy was in the pickup truck. He said, "Why are all these trees brown on the side of the road?" It's the salt dust blowing from off the highway onto those white pines, and it would kill they'd be all brown. What else is it killing, It's something after we do the fertilizer thing, we maybe should take a look at, before next fall, take a look at the road salt and the possible contamination.
Talk with Link about, it doesn't have to be separate, you could do it at the same time. Just see what the practice is.
I was told years ago, back when Al Rainio was in charge, he was a nice man, a very smart man, but there seemed to be a situation where they didn't like to have to sweep the roads in the springtime after they put salt on. Now, at that time, the town did not own sweepers, but they do now. They used to have to hire an outside company who would come down, and they'd sweep all the roads in the spring. And
Right.
of course, that cost money, and I'm sure the town fathers or whatever, the finance committee was not too happy with the expenditure. But the town has its own sweepers now.
And they do sweep the
Sure
roads
they
in the
do.
spring.
Absolutely.
But it's probably takes longer if there's a lot of sand on the road, which might be.
Usually
affected.
there's not a lot, but a lot of it gets moved off to the side and stuff,
Yeah, cars move it, right?
They don't put a ton of sand on the roads, but enough to provide some traction and
So,
whatnot.
what does the state do? Is that all just,
Same thing, they do all salt now too.
Salt, rock.
Yep. Yep.
for a while, they were like putting a solution down,
Yeah,
pickle
exactly.
juice
Well,
or
that's
something.
nothing but liquefied calcium chloride, that's all.
Was it you that was telling me that, what was it, different, like Vermont or something does beet juice or something like that? Because the roads are
I heard
paved.
that somewhere, I don't know where I
Really?
heard
Yeah,
that.
right.
Yeah.
I don't
They
know.
don't in Maine, I'll tell you that. They put tons of sand down in
I was
Maine. I
talking to
came back from
somebody
Maine,
and they had used a beet product
I was up there
and
Friday.
it dissolves snow, it dissolves ice.
After a snowstorm, it was snowing Thursday night, I went up Friday and the roads were a mess
Sounds
Friday
like
morning. They put so much sand on the road, it's unbelievable. I came back and I drove right straight to the car wash in Orleans. My God, my truck was covered with it.
Ah.
Yeah.
Vermont, it's all silt.
I would
Alright,
just like
so-
to add a couple things that aren't that different from what's already been discussed, but I would like to find somebody, and maybe it's someone that, I mean, the thing about Russ is he's not really a turf person, right? And the other thing is, he couldn't talk very in much detail about what happens to the nutrients. And I don't know if there is anyone who can be more specific, more quantitative or something about what happens to nitrogen and phosphorus that gets onto people's landscapes, lawns and other things, and how that gets into the groundwater and how it leaches, how much of it leaches. And it sounds kind of like Russ was saying, nobody really knows, but maybe there's someone else who could
Who
spend,
knows though?
who knows,
Yeah.
can talk in more detail about
Yeah,
that.
I agree.
And,
Okay.
and maybe that's someone from UMass. And the other thing is, more things about best practices, and since that meeting, really, I've become a little obsessed with the notion of what soil amendments, what top dressings, what treatments are there out there that can be applied to the lawn and planting beds that have minimal nutrients. And by minimal, I mean, like when UMass talks about how much nitrogen you should put on the lawn, it's somewhere in the range of 1 to 4 pounds per 1,000 square feet every year in one or more treatments. And so minimal, I mean a good deal less than that 1 pound, like something that just has some nominal amount, but that will still improve the soil health and promote the growth of grass. And some things that are talked about are things like biochar, which is just ground up residual carbon from low oxygen combustion of wood and other biological trash. And the other is I don't even know how to pronounce the word. It's a fungal.
Mycorrhizae.
What's the, you know.
Mycorrhizae.
Mycorrhizae, which promote root,
Yeah.
extend the roots, extend the ability of plants, including grass, but most plants expand their ability to take up water and nutrients from the soil. And I think there are things like that that would work, and and I'd love to have someone who is knowledgeable about incorporating those sorts of things that don't entail adding a lot of excess nutrients to the soil, that will promote growth, and talk about how to incorporate practices like that into a more general description of best practices for nutrient management and general land care.
Got it.
And the final one is your book, the book that you gave me and Amy that, I forget the name of the book.
Mhm.
I would really love to have someone talk about that. It's not so much.
He's coming. The author is coming to the tech.
Mhm.
Oh, that's right. You,
Yeah, he would probably be hard to get to come here.
Well, I wouldn't
Well-
say I'm not getting here, but if you want to go see him,
yeah, that would
What's
be
the
good.
book, Sophia?
It's called Bringing Nature Home, right? Or Nature's Best Hope.
It's Nature's Best Hope. It's by Doug Talney.
Mhm.
When's he gonna be at Tech? You
I
know?
think it's the 29th. It's the same day as Meet Your Local Farmers, which we're doing again this year over at the community center. Same day. It's called, I think it's March 29th. I'll let you know those things. So it's the master, Sophia, thank you for sending it to me.
Yeah.
It's the master gardeners who are having him, and it's $40 a person at the tech to see him.
I'm sorry.
Great book.
Did you give a date that I just?
I think it's the 29th of March. It's the last weekend of March. I'm gonna try to go see him.
So also, there may be other people who practice similar things
Yeah.
and are accustomed to talking
Mhm.
about them to groups
Wonder
of
if
people.
Somebody at the master gardeners, or you may know somebody.
I might have some leads.
You know.
Yeah, I will. I'll send you
Someone
some
at
names.
APCC, perhaps? Is there someone? you
It's
think-
not like a turf person.
Well,
They're
but we're
very
talking
against any
more
of
about-
that, but
Yeah.
Anyway,
the book that Sophia had us read it's really about what you can do on your own property, like, which is a wonderful thing. But, you can listen to it if you get a book like Hoopla or something from the library.
Oh, yeah, I have Hoopla.
Yeah. It's on Hoopla.
What's his name?
Doug
Doug what?
Talame. The T. I would like to try to plan for this next meeting if we can get speakers together. So while I have you, I'd like to look at a date. I liked that Friday afternoon. I think people like that Friday afternoon. So tentatively, can we shoot for maybe the 28th of March, that Friday? 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
I mean, just.
I know it's getting into busier seasons for people. I don't really want to push it off too much farther.
It's going to
Like,
start, we're all
get
gonna start going.
crazier.
Yeah.
That's right.
I just don't think I don't think we'll be able to, get everything lined up sooner than that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I was thinking the 21st, but at this point, that's like 2 weeks away.
Would we entertain a virtual speaker? Because then I might be able to rope somebody in who would be a potentially really good
Yeah.
person in the middle of like an APCC person and a
Yeah.
UMass, but it might be a good.
Yeah, I will double check that this room is available on the 28th at 1, and I'll just check with the Harwich channel to make sure it's not just something that's taped, but it's like this, an interactive meeting where we can have a presentation.
Yeah, okay.
So I should know that we can have that by the end of this week. And then it's just a
Okay.
matter of getting a person or two.
And he would, if I can get this person, he's in the same, like, realm of, like, biochar and mycorrhizae and all that sort of stuff. He would be a good
Cool.
source of information.
If I can help, let me know.
Sure.
Tentative March 28th at 1.
Great.
Sounds good.
All righty.
So we have minutes.
Oh, yeah.
These are
A couple other things for
minutes
you.
of non-meetings.
And I typed up our very bare minutes from last meeting, and left them on your table. So there's only one that we acted like on 3 days ago.
Right, but the 19th was, what happened on the 19th? I wasn't here,
That was
so
where
I-
Mark and I sat here
Oh,
and continued everything.
Right, so
to-
it's sort of a similar
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, so they're two kind of bare bone sets of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 2/19/25 and 2/27/25.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Lily and I went to MACC over the weekend.
How was it?
Per usual, it was Worcester. It was warm and sunny-ish in the morning, and by the time we get out, it was snowing and blowing. It's Worcester. It was good. Right now, my mind is everywhere else, but there was some really talks that were given that we sat in on, and Cold Brook project was highlighted.
Oh, nice.
Actually, I attended a talk by Nick Nelson of Interfluve, and of all his numerous restorations he's done, he showcased that one.
Wow.
Which, I don't know if I told you guys, that one not only has received a local Massachusetts engineering award, but is up for national award for the engineering and implementation.
Wow.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Very cool.
Couple quick things, you probably noticed they broke ground for the sidewalk project on Route 28.
Yeah.
I did the start work over by Brax today. They're not gonna get to that area until fall, and part of me was like, well, why did you disturb it? But, so they're not.
What have they done? How have they
They're
disturbed
over
it?
up the Harwich Port, they've cut the initial area where the sidewalk will be up in Harwich Port area,
Hmm.
and are starting to put in the curbs, but completion is not till potentially winter or spring of next year for that
Wow.
project. And if you notice, the catch basins, which are gonna take that road runoff that was going into Witchmere Harbor, they're sitting on the property at the corner of 28 and Snow Inn.
Oh, those are new ones they gotta put in.
Those are the new ones
Yeah,
that,
when are they gonna discharge it? That's just the catch basin.
they're gonna have, they're gonna allow it to infiltrate before it gets out.
How?
I don't remember exactly.
Because there's a lot of water that comes down from the bank and from there all the way down there. That's a lot of water.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
It comes from that
Yeah,
direction. It's
it
more
comes
the
from-
other direction.
You know, it comes from, up at the banks there with the
Yeah.
little crown on the road. That's where it starts and then it runs
Goes
to
down.
Witchmere Harbor.
We did approve, I don't have the plans with me, so we do have drainage plans.
Oh, yeah? I'd like to see that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Also did the start work for the Witchmere Harbor Club bank restoration today. They're gonna be starting this week on phase 1 of stripping the top half of that bank,
Whoa.
on Round Cove.
Oh, okay.
Not Witchmere,
Yeah.
Wausau,
Wausau, yeah, yeah.
Round Cove, Wausau.
Which
not
part?
Witchmere.
In the,
On the cove, though, I mean,
Closest to-
phase one is the length of the bank, but just the
Oh.
top half. So they did like top half and bottom half is how they're doing it. So they'll be getting moving.
What happened to that, Snow-In Road there, I think it was?
Thinking the same thing.
That project that came before us 2 or 3 meetings ago, and it looked like it needed
They're
notice.
coming on the
Is they
19th.
coming back?
Yep,
Okay.
they've got to provide all the materials.
Also, when they started that, I took some pictures, when they started that sidewalk a week and a half or so ago. The first thing they did was cut down that gigantic tree on the corner of Bank Street and 28. It was a great big thing. I took pictures, what a shame. Well, it was too close. The base of it was right at the edge of where the sidewalk's going. It kind of ticked me off, but what do you got to do? I mean, it's a huge, it was huge. That thing's 150 feet high.
What kind of tree?
Maple, I believe it was. Big old
A-
guy.
A native maple or Norway?
I don't
maple?
know for sure what it was, but
was
it's
big.
been there for a long time, since I can remember. Too bad, that tree is probably 200 years old. Oh, well. I'm curious, well, I don't know how much how they, why they put that sidewalk on that side of the road. That's where all the telephone poles are. I mean, even when that guy was here, remember the engineer was here, I don't know if we asked him that question, but the opposite side of the road, there's no poles. I don't know.
Well, when
Greater
I,
minds
next
than
time,
mine, I guess.
next time I talk to MassDOT, I'll.
Yeah, ask them that, just for the hell of it, see what they say.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I know one of the people on the project pretty well, so
Yeah.
I'll ask them.
I hope they're not gonna move all the poles. I don't think they can because they didn't do any land takings for the homeowners, so I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. They're pretty close to the road.
Sure.
So you
And
can
there's
put a
not
sidewalk
enough room.
around them?
There's not enough room where they could have left a strip of grass with the poles in it and put the sidewalk
yeah.
behind it. There's not enough room for it, so. I went by today and checked it out while they were prepping it, getting the sub base done. Oh, boy.
Shame that the tree, I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, it was too bad.
You're gonna see the Route 28 water main project next meeting
Yeah.
from West Harwich into Harwich Center.
And what did Brad say, they're gonna come in and tear up Andrews River after they get this done? What he was talking about before he left, and we had that discussion here with
Andrews
that
River. Oh,
state
yeah.
engineer.
Down at the,
In
down
Andrews
past
River.
Brack's,
Yeah. A year or so after they do the sidewalk and they get it all done,
All right.
they're gonna rip up the
Put a
bottom
new
down
culvert
there
in or
and
something.
put a culvert under Andrews River.
For Andrews.
Yeah, that's right.
Wasn't that's Andrews, isn't it? Yeah.
No,
Cutting
it's
machine.
Cutting.
Cutting.
That's the real name of
Yeah.
it.
It's Coldbrook.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's, the real name
Harding
is
is,
Andrews River and Cutting Machine Brook.
yeah.
I thought
I don't
Andrews,
care
Ri-
about the new names, it's all
I
made
thought
up.
Andrews River was another thing east of there.
It is
It is.
east.
There's a big tree.
So carting machine is what we call cold.
Ah,
Andrews River's on the east side.
Yeah, big sucker.
Right.
It's beautiful.
Which is almost
Next to
invisible.
the harbor
at this
mast, yeah, you can't, it's in a big 200-foot long culvert underneath the ground that's partially collapsed,
It
that
runs under
Oh.
28,
it runs under 28.
Yeah.
Partially
right.
collapsed,
And that's
huh?
Andrews, yeah, I
Yeah,
get
that's
mixed up
Andrews.
sometimes.
No, it's-
That
they're
raises an interesting question, with that considered the Rivers Act?
It is not, because when a river is underground in a pipe for more than 200 feet, the riverfront area stops
Oh,
at
really?
those ends.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
that one is too long. I looked into that, because when we redid the harbor masters
Right.
area,
Yeah.
we had to determine if it was subject to riverfront area,
Sure.
and some of it is, but then only area where it's basically where it's daylighted.
Ah, I didn't realize that.
Which is way in the northeast corner there.
South corner and across the street.
I mean, in
Where it's open.
Saquatucket is the very northeast
Yes,
corner.
correct. That's where it's in the pipe.
Never actually
Yeah, that-
seen where that comes out.
It comes out into a ditch that runs around behind the fuel docks that used to be there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
It's
interesting. I didn't know
goal
that.
to daylight that
That'll answer some
street,
questions.
would be good. All right, let's get out of here.
All right, I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting of March 5th, 2025, the Harwich Conservation Commission.
second that.
All those in favor? Aye.